super excited today about today's session. I know that in teaching the grassroots course is one of the major things that coaches tend to want to improve upon is the questioning techniques and a way to train through questioning. And, gosh, when I reached out to Adam, he's got a great ideas and great insight in this exact topic. And so, without further ado, I want to introduce Adam Kennis from Oklahoma, the technical director for Oklahoma State, and really just an unbelievable person and human being as well. And so, like I said, I couldn't wait to get you on. I was super excited to see what we had for today, and really pumped about the information we're going to provide on. I know that I'll be tagging you in a lot of our grassroots courses from here on out, because like I said, this is one of the biggest topics that people feel like they want to be a part of and want to learn from and want to improve on. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Warren, thanks for the generous words. Thank you for everyone that's taken the time out of their lunch to hang out with us. I thought when Warren came on at did we miss? Okay, yeah. Hey, when Warren came in on at North Texas, I was super excited to see that he was starting these bi-weekly webinars or bi-monthly webinars you get. And, I've been encouraging my coaches here in Oklahoma and those that I talk to around the country to join in, and also, check out the YouTube page. If you haven't done that, there's a wealth of information there, and guys that can talk a lot better than I can and present, but we'll do our best with what we got, right, Coach? Yes, so this really changed my life when I was introduced to the toolbox and the toolkit of guided questions and guided discovery. Obviously, there's a wealth of different coaching styles and tactics that you use in the game, and the more tools we have in our tool belt, the more prepared we are for the people that matter, our players. And when I first started coaching, which I see a lot of, maybe in my era that there was a lot of command style, a lot of almost dictatorship, almost, drill sergeant type. And that's all we knew. That was all we knew. But, after research and plenty of guys studying that are way smarter than me, found out there was ways that we could not only connect with the players more, but give the players back the game that's already theirs, and I think as we chat today about these concepts of guided questions, we hope to open up your eyes a little bit about this technique and this tool that we can use, and what guided questions are and what the guided discovery is all about, but also, what they're not. And in ways that we can frame our questions, ways that we can prepare ahead of time, like we all should, making sure we're properly prepared, because players deserve that. They really do. They deserve to have a knowledgeable coach, and they deserve to have a coach that's prepared. And we hope to help you do this today, because we want to help the players form a deeper understanding of the game, so they can have a deeper passion and love for the game. So without further ado, I'll share my screen here, and share screen, share sound. Warren, you got a thumbs up? You can see?
Yeah, we're good to go. Looks awesome.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, real easy, but we definitely believe that there's an art, and it's not a science, and that's why we put this title together. I believe there is a right and a wrong way, but just like arts, there's a lot that are not absolutes. That's what we're going to talk about today, and this is why. As you see on your screen there, we live in a different culture. And, you know, us as coaches have to choose. We have to choose whether, you know, we want to coach and lead for applause, or if we want to lead and coach for change. And most times that is two different things. Do we want it to be coach centered? Or do we want it to be player and team centered? And we have to make that choice with our environments and with our teams and with our players. So why should we use these tools? You know, like we talked about before, you know, with the U.S. soccer system, you know, we have opportunities to check and adapt, you know, at natural stoppages. You know, we have command style, we have, you know, reinforcement, we have positive reinforcement, hopefully. We have demonstration. So again, just many tools in our tool belt, and guided questions and guided discoveries is one of them. This, like I said earlier, it's really to give the game back to the kids, back to the players, let them have ownership of the game. Many times we coach our training sessions and we wonder why it's not translating out on Saturday's game day or Sunday's game day. And we have to ask ourselves, you know, are we making players, are we guiding them to make autonomous decisions when they're training? Because we all say it, but do we live it? You know, we say, you know, the way you train is going to be the way you play. So the way we coach our training sessions are also going to be the way that the kids learn, and they're stimulated, and they're able to make those decisions on their own. The more you give them ownership of their team, of the game, the more they'll take care of it. Like the old saying goes, you know, you take care of a house if you own it a little bit better than if you rent it. So are we allowing our children to rent their team for the week, or are we giving them ownership of that game? Studies show it stimulates the brain. So asking questions opens up the mind. I was raised with a family of 10, and there was 8 siblings, and then mom and dad. And you know, I a lot of times heard, we can't afford that. And so I just took it at face value. It's mom and dad. Obviously, they have the wallet and the purse strings. So I said, okay, you know, it's over. You know, I can't get that video game, or, you know, or that bike. But I read a book early on in my adulthood, and they framed a question. Instead of saying to your children, we can't afford that, we ask them, how can we afford that? Well, one says no, and then the conversation's over, and the brain stops working. And the other one stimulates the child into wondering how we can afford it. Maybe it's a paper route, right? Maybe it's a lemonade stand. We don't know, but it gets the players or the children motivated to come up with the solution on how we can afford it. Same thing goes in the game. Can we make partnerships with the players? You know, I'm a firm believer that there's a soccer game and it can still happen without a coach, but we can't have a game without players. And so how can we become more of a facilitator of that game, or a travel agent? You know, I see someone here that's in the travel and education on this webinar. And you know why I chose him? My wife asked me, you know, hey, why don't you plan your international trips, you know, with a travel agent versus trying to do it on your own and trying to find all the flights and so on and so forth. And I said, you know what, a travel agent and travel partners get us to the same place, but it's not the same experience. And that's us as facilitators, as giving the games back to children, as, hey, we're kind of like travel agents. The players are going to get there. We're just trying to get them there more efficiently and more productively and more rewarding by giving them ownership of the game. Let you read that. She didn't teach me. We had to learn it for ourselves. You know, one thing about this, as you start using the guided discovery or using it more with guided questions and games and training sessions, you might have a little bit of pushback if you don't communicate it well to the parents. The reason is they're so used to, as we talked about earlier in our culture, of the command style where we give the answers before the test. In any other life, we don't do that, you know. The game is the ultimate test, and we need to guide them to be prepared for that test. And parents sometimes have a pushback, and you'll see it from the sidelines when you're hearing, go forward, go forward. Why are you going sideways? Why are you going back? And if we communicate well to the parents and allow them to understand that, hey, we're giving the kids back the game because it was theirs all to begin with, and allowing them to know, us as coaches, we have a lot of information and we have a lot of passion, and we try to get that all out at once, whether intentionally or non-intentionally. We get passionate about it, and we care about the game, and we care about the kids and their learning. So sometimes we overshare, or as they say it, overcoach nowadays, and we give them too much information at once, and we're lecturing more than we are guiding and facilitating. And as the stats have shown, we'll look at that a little bit later. We have a certain level of retention of knowledge and understanding when we're lectured to. Okay, we have different level of retention when it's auditory, but the fact remains that the best way to do is experiential learning, so experiencing the game and living it. Again, setting those expectations, with the parents and the players are key to your success of using guided questions. Here's some examples of guided questions and the basic order of things. You'll have factual. It's simple, recalls, like if I ask you if you like peanut butter, it's yes or no. It's pretty simple, okay? And others are fill in the blank. For instance, when the whistle blows and it's kickoff, what do we do next? Okay, and it's simple, fill in the blank. We kick off, we pass the ball, we go forward, we go backwards, whatever it is. But they can fill in the blank. So at different stages of development, not only in the players, but also in yourselves of using this tool, you'll want to start with easier, just like we do with the players, simple to complex. So it's okay to have these factual, defined, simple answers, and it'll help them recall things that you've taught before. Obviously, the next one is a little bit higher in the process of thoughts, conceptual. So we're comparing and contrasting. Okay, the opportunity to penetrate and move the ball forward wasn't on. So what was another opportunity that we could possess the ball and potentially capitalize on another weakness of the opponent, and helping them summarize it in their own words. And then we have the last one here, evaluative. And this is complex reasoning. So we probably don't want to bring this up with a 5 or 6 year old unless they're a prodigy. But I tend to stay away from those and work on the first couple of levels with those. So here's an example. We're talking about 1v1 defending, and here's a factual one. You can see it there. Could you arrive at the same time as the ball did? So this picture is the opponent, and one opponent is passing, the opponent's first attackers passing to the second attacker, and our team's defending. And the first defender, hey, instead of waiting, is there any way, as that ball is tracking, that you feel like you could get there at the same time or very close to the same time, so you can press them, maybe get a second ball, or at least close them down so they have to go backwards and and we foil the attack, as they say. Conceptual, you can see it there. What are the cues? So the clues, I like to use clues with my kids instead of cues, because, especially with the younger ones, they can understand that. So be very careful with your verbiage when you're asking the questions. But what clues determine how close you can get to the opponent? Okay, so now we're having to look at the situation at hand, not just the player and the ball, but now the players around the ball. What part of the pitch are we in? What are the opponents doing? Is the ref in the way? What is my team doing? Am I the closest person? So we're conceptualizing those, and we're having to read and understand the game before we make those determinations. And then the last one, obviously, is how would your opponent react if you arrived at the same time? You'd probably be nervous, right? Especially at the youth level. We turn the ball over quite a bit, and yes, we all get frustrated that we do that, but more and more coaches and players are going to watch 2 weeks ago Sam Snow's webinar, and they'll get better at that. But we're growing, and we're a great country, and we're getting better every day. Understanding that, hey, if you arrive at the same time when we're defending as the attacker gets the ball, there's a better chance of you getting the ball or disrupting that attack. And so these are the three that we're working with. Play a little video here, and some of the things I want you to look at is not only the activity and the player, but what is the coach asking? How is he coaching? Okay, so not necessarily the context of the X's and O's, but how he frames the coaching and how the players react to it.
Now we're going to go to 4v4 inside this middle area. 4v4 in here. Yeah, in this bit, so it's going to be super tight. What I'm going to say is, so if Will breaks over into there, Will, after we'll say 3 passes, and we play Will, and stop there. Will can't score, but he's got to hold it up until someone else can do what? Can get in, and then we can try and go and score. Can a recovering defender go back in? Yeah, why not? Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, only one for now? We'll say only one. So if Will breaks into there and we play Will Bateman might get back in, but then I've got to try and be in here, and then we'll have 2v1 to try and score. Same going that way as well. Can you work it forward?
Yes, Mark, yes, Mark.
Good, you need support, you need support. No, it's not whether he's in there or not. Have a listen. Why are we doing this exercise for? Think about the exercise, think about what we've just done. The combination play, we want to get runners into here to do what? Combine width and depth, then we want to look to score. So do you understand, Hilsey? It's not whether I'm just in there. Off the first ball that's into you, you can't score. Ready, play from you, Will? Go on, play from you. Good. Oh. Play on, play on. Yep, play from Willwood. Stretch it, Hilsey. Stretch it, stretch it. Stretch it, make it bigger. Oh, come on, Greens. Play on, Blues have still got it. Play on, play on, play on. Clever finish. So, I mean, the whole session, it starts off very small and very tight. But
so he used a lot of different teaching actions or the toolkit as we were talking about. Could he have asked more questions? Obviously, yes. Again, we have to monitor the environment and the situation and not overload the players. Also, we need to give them time as we're asking these questions and putting demands and teaching actions in place to process it. Not everyone processes information at the same time. So although he could ask more questions, he didn't, and that was fine. In some environments, you'll need to ask less questions, and you'll have to give more pause in between the questions for reflection. So what did he want the players to do? It was pretty command at that point. He was giving them information, but at the same time, if you notice, after a command, he would respond with a question as well to open up their minds. So now they're being told what to do and then ask how we can do it. So a great combination. But who are making the decision? You know, at the end, once the whistle blows or and the ball's in play, he's allowing them to come up with solutions, and then he's going to call them back in later. As I pause the video there, he's going to talk to them about that situation and guide them to potential solution. Obviously, go back to reflecting and giving them positive reinforcement. When we're asking guided questions, there's a couple different ways. There's probably hundreds, if you will, but these are the three main ones that we see a lot. Is cold calling. Cold calling is simply asking a player a question in a team environment, but calling on their name. The unique thing that happens there is if I say Warren will perk up and say, hey, how do we keep a shot low? Warren's going to perk up because he has to come with the answer. But the other players as well have been known to engage as well, because they may think, hey, if coach called on Warren, he might call on Luke next. So their curiosity is engaged. Their eye contact typically is towards the question. And they're ready to have the next question, versus just lecturing and telling them what to do in a lengthy process like I'm doing now, and players could potentially get bored. Cold call combined with the no opt-out technique is one of my favorites personally. The reason is when you cold call someone, no matter what age, I had the privilege of coaching professional indoor and semi-pro indoor, and we even won a national championship one year, and even there, when I would cold call players at that level, some of them would get extremely nervous and they would shut down, even though they knew the answer like the back of their hand. Just being kind of singled out made them a bit nervous, even at that level. And so the no opt-out is if they don't have the answer, the person, Warren, didn't have the answer, I could say, hey, do you want Luke to help you out? Or ask someone else the question. So you go to someone that has the answer, okay? They have the answer, but we're not allowing Warren to get out free. See, if you go from asking Warren the question and he doesn't know, or he's too nervous to answer, and you go straight to Luke, Warren's going to know that, hey, look, if I just act like I don't know or come back to me later, it's a good way out, okay? Well, with the no opt-out technique is now Luke is going to talk about that. He's going to answer for you. You need to go back to Warren and have him just repeat what Luke said. That way, Warren and Luke both understand. They both were able to answer the question. And the kids with their heads down that maybe never make eye contact because they don't want to get called on, now they know, hey, look, if I don't have the answer, my team will help me, but I'm not going to get out of it. Surveying is when you have the team in a huddle or on the sideline, and you ask the question, who knows? And a number of different ways. You can have them raise their hand. You can have thumbs up, thumbs down, but you're asking the entire audience. So whether you coach, 8 kids or 18 kids, whether you coach, adults, college, pro, or U5 to U6 girls and boys, you're asking the entire group. And someone raises their hand like we did in school, and you call on one of the people that raised their hands. And then checking for understanding is also another one. We want to make sure that the information we provided and the rest of the group understands the answer and aren't just nodding their head. Okay. One bad habit I had early in my coaching, probably early and middle and maybe even later, is asking, does everyone understand? Well, of course, most kids won't say no, no, I don't understand. You'll have the occasional player that'll do that, but for the most part, people don't want to say, hey, I don't know. So checking for understanding we can do in different ways. We can do 5 fingers, so and no fingers. So 0 is I don't really have that great of a understanding what you're saying, or not at all. Maybe 1 is I slightly know, but 5 is I know it like the back of my hand, pun intended. Okay, so you can do that, or you can do, hey, thumbs up if I understand, thumbs down if I don't, maybe thumb sideways if I'm wishy-washy on it. So those are some amazing techniques right there. We definitely want to work primarily on why and shape our questions to why and how. Okay. It enhances the player's ability and to make the decisions on their own. Okay. It empowers them, okay, to be part of the teaching and learning process. And encourages them to answer. Okay. If you look at Dr. Lynn here, great articles, great books. I highly recommend you following her. And I'll share the slide deck with Warren if you wish, and we'll get it out to you, no problem. Again, we talked about earlier, at different stages of development, both as coaches and players, we want to do things that we'll be successful at. And then obviously we want to stretch ourselves a little bit. But we don't want to ask really high complex answers to a player that's just starting out and they're very young in their developmental stages, both as players and as human beings. The right phrasing and the right tone of voice, they're skills that every coach needs, but we should never stop developing them. You know, we definitely want to get better and develop ourselves. So we can, when we're asking questions, it can be received as negative or positive from kids. I remember early on learning that giving compliments to one child could be detrimental to another child. So we have to be careful with our compliments as well as our question. If you know, my 10-year-old girls team comes out and I say, hey, Sally, I really like your pink cleats. The girl with the yellow cleats and the white cleats may feel insecure and, well, coach, I'm seeking your approval. And you didn't comment on my yellow cleats. So we have to be careful with those comments, but we also have to be careful with the questioning, you know, why on earth did you shoot so high? You know, can be very detrimental, and it brings on the wrong self reflection. It brings them into judging themselves because of the way we phrased it, and that's not what we want. A little bit about what we just talked about, you know, why didn't you pass when I told you to? So, you know, I was a player that I did okay in practice, okay, with coaches being hard on me and commanding me. I did fine, but when they'd hit me with questions like this in the middle of the game, my performance would decline. Obviously, I needed to be more mentally tough and things of that nature, but the fact remains that not everybody is mentally tough, or those can be mentally tough, fluctuate. Maybe they had a bad day. Okay. Maybe, you know, God forbid, you know, a dog passed away. I've actually had that happen on the way to a game before, and the parents didn't tell me, and I'm, oh, wow, like I need that information, right? But we need to make sure that, you know, we're not passing judgment while we're doing this. Why do soccer players sometimes need to make passes would be a much more positive way of doing it. Just be patient. You know, be patient with your questions and be patient with the players through this process. And it's going to be learning. If this is your first time, it's a learning process for you, but it's also for the kids, but don't give up, because they're worth it. They're definitely worth it. This is again a difference between the command style and the guided style. And as you see by this graphic from the National Youth License on guided discovery, you know, you have the teeter-totter there in the command style, you know, and then you have that guided conceptual understanding, you know, trial and error. Allow them to be in a position of growth and let them know that, hey, look, every practice and every game that you do things well, you want to take those moments and remember them forever. Okay. But those things you didn't do well, we need to look at them, try to improve them, and move on. Okay. And then the next game, we're going to do the same thing. Okay. And as we do that, development happens exponentially. So here's another one. How could you miss that shot? You notice my tone, it's kind of condescending, right? And it just has negative tones to it. With young players, you know, you need to allow them to show you instead of just telling you. So be careful of that. So, you know, how could you get your shot lower on goal versus why did you shoot high, or that shot was too high. I've heard that plenty of times on Saturday mornings, is that shot's too high, keep it down. Coach, I think the ball just told them that, you know, they know it's not in the back of the net. But just, you know, it helps them and their teammates better understand the answers if you let them problem solve. And basically, like we did in kindergarten and first grade, you know, show and tell, right? Show and tell. You know, we coaches that are on this webinar, most likely you've never done this, but maybe there was, you know, maybe emotions got the best of you, like they do all of us at times, and we ask a player, what were you thinking? Okay, we definitely want to know what they were thinking. Okay, we'd want to know so we can help guide them, and we understand why they made the decisions. But the way you phrase that question can be life and death, okay, to a youth player in their eyes. So what could be another option to that solution? Okay, or hey, I saw you had this problem out on the field, you know, hey, that was a tough one, and obviously we didn't get it right, but hey, what's another option? What do you think about this? You know, and allowing them to understand that, hey, I'm allowed to make mistakes, just try not to make the same mistake over and over, right? Be real careful with the questions that you ask and the answers that they give. If you start to give the players more ownership of the game, more ownership of training, more ownership of the game on Saturdays and Sundays, you got to give them ownership of the answers as well. So when you're prepping your questions for each session, be extremely mindful of what answers you have. So not only do us as coaches have to think of the questions that will draw out development, we also have to be very mindful of what answers we might get. Okay, so if they answer you and it's off the wall, there's ways that we can deflect and ignore that. Okay, there's other ways that maybe it's a good answer, but it's completely off topic, right? So maybe, hey, Johnny, we can address that after practice. Meet me back here. I think that's cool. Let's talk about it, right? But be real careful with the answers. You don't want to dismiss them. Okay, if they give you an answer, they became very vulnerable for you, and vulnerability is the gateway to growth and development. So the first time you say, no, that's not the right answer, or nope, move on to the next kid, that child is much more likely not to engage in the questions and answering next time. So a couple examples there. Remember to control. I know we talked about tone, but remember to control the rhythm and pace. Okay, rhythm and pace of your questions. Make sure that they're all interconnected with the topic that you're trying to talk about that day, or the goals that you have for this week's game. Okay. And make sure they're not on top of each other where they don't have time to reflect and they don't have time to make a decision and see if it worked or not. Okay. Present the information indirectly, but honestly, we as coaches talk a lot sometimes. So we get afraid of silence. Silence is awkward. It is, but we have to be okay with that awkwardness. Okay. I'm not telling you to get in an elevator and not turn around and face the doors and face everyone else in the elevator. Okay. Not that kind of awkward, but listen, silence is okay. Silence is okay. Don't be afraid of silence. All right. You know, obviously if 2-3 minutes go by, they're going to get antsy if they're young kids. Okay. But, you can help guide them with a follow-up question. Okay. You know, or say, hey, let me rephrase that. So you can get a better result from that. I know every coach wants to be an active learner, or they wouldn't be on this webinar. They wouldn't be watching this on YouTube. Just remember that, hey, the players need to be active learners as well. Okay, here's some examples here. The first ones here is a coach, and the sound's a little bit high, so you might have to adjust it on your side. But look at his participation ratio and some ideas and the way he asks the question and involves each and every player and so forth. So let's give a listen to this. Slide it back.
Okay, so on the previous activity, we're learning the combination of the up, back, through. What I want you to think about now is how you can use this in the game. So from what we've just learned, how can you use this in the game? And I want you to turn and talk next to your partner. I'll give you 30 seconds and then I'm going to be looking for answers, okay? How can you use this up, back, through in a game, and what have we learned? Time, okay. All right. Mateo, what do you find?
Long for striker, down to midfield, like attacking on through.
Okay, so that's the positional aspect of it. Onto the striker, back to the midfield and through. So either a wide man or the other centre forward. What else? Quinn?
Yeah, it's got a defender on his back to get him to bite and then play.
Perfect. So you're introducing the space in behind. Okay, so you're playing up to the guy to get into that space behind. All right, for the through ball to be played in there. What else? Gary?
Play down the midfield to get it to the other side. Play down up to the midfield, down back to another midfielder.
Yeah, up to the midfield, down inside, and then back out, switching the point of attack. Not on positional now, not on when you can use this in a game, okay, from a position aspect. What about the movement and the pass needs to be good for this to happen, okay?
Well, you need to have good strength of pass. You have to know that short pass should be softer to have that defender bite.
Keegan, what else? Awareness of the people around you. Perfect. All right, good stuff. Okay, we're going to do 2.
All right. So one thing I wanted to point out is, did you notice that it was difficult to hear the players, but it was real easy to hear the coach? That's technology for you. The coach had the mic on. But this happens outdoors as well. You're in a soccer complex and there's hundreds of kids out there and coaches that are coaching their team. So there's quite a bit of information being out there. It's noisy, things of that nature. And also kids that are answering aren't necessarily always going to be confident. So their answers are a little more quieter. Okay, if you notice, the coach used an echo technique. Echo technique is very simple. You're just repeating the good information that the player answered. Okay, so two things are great about this. Number one, everyone gets to hear it at a better volume because you're more comfortable and confident with the information as a coach. Number two is they get to hear it a second time. They get to hear it a second time. And on that note, I want us to hear it a second time.
Okay, so on the previous activity, we're learning the combination of the up, back, through. What I want you to think about now is how you can use this in the game. So from what we've just learned, how can you use this in the game? And I want you to turn and talk next to your partner. I'll give you 30 seconds and then I'm going to be looking for answers, okay? How can you use this up, back, through in a game and what have we learned? Time, okay. All right. Mateo, what do you find?
Going for a striker down to the midfield, like attacking on through.
Okay, so that's the positional aspect of it. Up to the striker, back to the midfield and through to either a wide man or the other centre forward. What else? Quinn?
Yeah, it's got a defender on his back, you get him to bite and then put it through.
Perfect. So you're introducing the space in behind. Okay, so you're playing up to the guy to get into that space behind. All right, for the through ball to be played in there. What else? Gary?
Play down in the midfield to get it to the other side. Play down up to the midfield, down back to another midfielder.
Yeah, up to the midfield, down inside, and then back out, switching the point of attack. Not on positional now, not on when you can use this in a game, okay, from a position aspect. What about the movement and the pass needs to be good for this to happen, okay?
Well, you need to have good strength of pass. You have to know that short pass should be softer to have that defender bite.
Keegan, what else? Awareness of the people around you. Perfect. All right, good stuff. Okay, we're going to do two.
Notice the second time that you watch that, you should have picked up different things. The same is true for players, and that's why the echo technique helps. We're just reiterating what the player said. Also notice the coach is excellent. Coach James is excellent with follow-up questions to get deeper understanding. Now, obviously, these players aren't 6, 7, 8 years old. And obviously they've already worked on something in the training session. This isn't as soon as they showed up. They've obviously worked on this concept maybe prior in a different session or the current session, and then they brought them in. Okay. But the coach can give more feedback if the questions aren't getting them to the point where you as a coach wants to get them at. Also be mindful of the age. This age, they can handle that long of a debriefing. But the younger players, the 6-year-olds are not going to have that attention span. You're going to have to do it in about 30 seconds. Okay, so maybe one question, and obviously not with tactical understanding and knowledge that these players and coach have. But wasn't it great how he posed a problem and a question, okay, and he allowed them to interact with one another. We as coaches are always asking our players, talk, communicate on the field on game day, right? But do we give them the opportunity to talk in the coaching natural stoppage? Do we give them the opportunity to talk and own the game inside the training session? And I think Coach James did a very good job with that. I'm sure he did as well. This is another show, but I think it's worth. I have a look here.
Okay.
Warren's better at this technology than I am.
So on the previous activity, we're learning the combination of the up, back, through. What I want you to think about now is how you can use this in the game. So from what we've just learned, how can you use this in a game? And I want you to turn and talk next to your partner. I'll give you 30 seconds and then I'm going to be looking for answers, okay? How can you use this up, back, through in a game and what have we learned? Time, okay. All right. Mateo, what do you find?
Long for striker down to the midfield, like attacking up through.
Okay, so that's the positional aspect of it. What
Right, here we go. Last one, guys, last one. Coach Steve here puts the players in functional groups. So we want to help players communicate. Maybe it's goalkeepers with center backs. Maybe it's goalkeepers with the whole back line. Maybe it's our 10 with our 9, 7, and 11. So our wingers, our striker, and our attacking. But he puts them in functional groups because we also have to have close relationships. You know, your winger with your fullback work a lot together. Okay, so having those interact as units and groups is very rewarding.
Yellow, meet as a group with your goalkeeper. White, meet as a group. You need to discuss what challenges are you, what difficulties are you having right now. All right. All right, come on, close together. All right. So what's one of the disadvantages?
Not communicating in the beginning. We're not getting that fast enough and then drilling right down the middle, giving us like a hard time to decide, like to organize which side we want.
Can you tack on to what he's talking about?
Well, they're attacking with such pace and they're trying to cut across our line so that we can't organize the right angle to press all on one side.
What else? What do you think?
I guess we're just like, we were kind of talking about it, just like the way that it is, they're coming.
So before you go anywhere, what do you think was one of their advantages?
Speed, attack.
Okay, so if they go fast, where did you want to go fast to? Why? That's where the goal is. All right? But yet, how many shots did you get off? So 5 possessions, only 2 shots, only one on there wasn't even one on frame. So even with all those advantages, your speed of approach, clearly there's some evidence that you're getting out to it. All right? So let's continue to work on cutting the field in half because you're not able to get that first defender there yet to cut the field in half, right? Right?
All right, so another great example. What a unique opportunity. What if we had that in a game where both teams came together and both coaches came together after a game or maybe at halftime as well and said, hey, team A, what did they try to do? You know, what did they succeed at? What did they fail at? Right? We can do that with our own teams. You know, obviously, if you have a close colleague, you can do that with opponents. But look how they do it in the game. Okay, they brought in obviously 2 different teams, functional teams. Okay, and they were working on concepts, obviously, to get better. But they brought in and compared and contrast, and they looked at how the game situation, the practice was successful and failed, and they collaborated together to become better at defending, okay, better at attacking, better in transition. But they did it with 2 different opposing teams, obviously, in this exercise. So another amazing opportunity to grow and a great example from that coach. Following up, guys, we have tons of questions as far as, you know, attacking style, defending, what do we do in transition? I have a bit of a cheat sheet that I'll share if you guys want it. Happy to share those with you, but you can have simple ones, you know, as you know, if you have an open goal, what do you think you should do, right? Most kids, even if it was their first practice ever, they kind of know, hey, I want to put it in the goal, right? You know, I want to shoot the ball, right? But then we can also follow it up like with a more complex question is, you know, how do we create openings or gaps, right? And you know, we're trying to get them to spread out instead of screaming like we hear from the sideline sometimes, spread out, spread out. You know, guide them to appreciate why we need to spread out. We'll go far more in your development of your team and your players if you allow them to understand and own that reason. Okay, and then why, how and why, right? That was our main question. So why do we need to get wide? Okay, well, there we go again. We need open, right? We get wide. First principle of attack, we got to get wide to open up the opponent so we can pass through them, right? So I have those if you wanna join in on some of those. Obviously, I highly encourage you come up with your own. But there's examples at North Texas Soccer. They have sessions with guided questions on there in the coaches tab. I've used them myself. But hey, just in summing up, just keep it simple, keep it concise. Keep your questions when you first start using them, as concise and clear as possible. We want you to have success, but we also want the players to have success, okay? Because that will allow them to have confidence, and confidence allows them to grow, okay? Keep it simple and be patient, okay? Not all of this is going to work, okay? Not all my videos work, right? So we live in an imperfect world and we have an imperfect game, right? But that's the beauty of it, is the only constant in soccer is change, right? It's a fluid game, and that's why they call it beautiful, right? So open it up to any questions if you guys have questions. Warren, if you want to chime in at all, feel free to I know you have an amazing teaching background, and I stole a lot of these things from the teachers' resources. So chime in if you want to add to it. A question?
Yeah, no, I thought it was really good. The only thing I would add to it is that whenever you're doing the questioning, make sure you don't open-ended question, because then you'll have the same kid add the answer all the time. So one thing is, especially in math, you pick different kids at random times, and that kind of held everybody accountable. And we had other tricks like sticks and stuff like that to make it totally random. But that way, if kids always are fearful of the fact that they may get picked, they'll think about the question. But if one little guy gives all the answers all the time, that gets everybody else off the hook. But otherwise, man, that was very, very good. I really liked the think, pair, share done by the one, and then the situational with the different positions in the groups and asking them what they thought. So I thought that was really, really good. I appreciate it a ton.
Absolutely. You have it ability to ask questions in the chat, or are they allowed to unmute themselves, or how does that work?
They can unmute themselves and fire away.
All right.
So with that, does anybody have any questions within the group that they'd like to unmute? Oh, we got Adam here because, like I said, I really enjoyed it. Okay. Well, it looks like we
covered it all.
Good job.
Yeah.
Amazing. See? I guess we're having a questioning a session, and there's no questions. But
that's right.
So no, it's kind of cool. Hey, with that being said, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for adding this content. Like I said, I'm going to be posting this out to our grassroots coaches here in North Texas. So I think something that everybody struggles with a bit, because I agree with you. I think it takes time to develop the technique. It's not something simple, and you're trying to come in with an intended response, and that's the biggest part, is how to develop the questions. And I think this did a great job. I will say for the next one, we've got coming up in 2 weeks in November. It's going to be our executive director of South Carolina Soccer, Walter Clapton, is going to join us, and he's going to cover ages and stages, who's in front of me. And so I think that adds another little emphasis, another part of the topic, especially geared towards the D coaching course, just to understand that, different levels, different stages. So I think that'll be another good one as well. But as we start to keep this thing going, and like I said, trying to supplement coaching courses as well as provide content that's available for all, I think it's a big part of it. And I want to thank you personally and say thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and your time to help out the coaches in North Texas, as well as around the nation that have been watching it, and encourage people to check it out on the YouTube channel as well. There's not only this, but all the previous webinars are videoed and recorded there. And this one should be up by Wednesday too. I look forward to adding it to our library. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for taking your time out today.
Absolutely. You're welcome, and thanks for having me.
No, it was awesome. And with that being said, we'll close out this session and we'll see you guys again in 2 weeks as we continue the bi-weekly webinar series.